Toby Perkins.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Very interesting to follow the honourable gentleman who appears to have made it all the way from Clacton to Portcullis House, but never quite managed to get over those final 200 yards, which is quite an interesting metaphor for the government's Queen's speech that we have in front of us. It promises so much, as they have done over the course of the last 11 years, and yet so often there is less to the content of this Queen's speech than originally meets the eye. It's an entirely incoherent government, and most importantly, it's a government that doesn't do what it says. It's a government that doesn't mean what it says. We had the stunning statistic, which was very interesting for the honourable gentleman from Thirsk and Malton, that the gap between London and the south and the north of England is bigger than the gap between West and East Germany before unification. What a stunning demonstration of the failure of the Northern powerhouse that we were all told to celebrate 7 or 8 years ago. Very happily give way.
The point is, you need to put political differences aside for this issue. It has been decades of underinvestment that has brought us here. He's trying to make a cheap political point, which is not at all what I was saying.
I'm making a political point because I'm saying that we've had a Conservative government for 11 years, and I see videos on television where there's people who have decided to vote Conservative because they're fed up about the health service or because they're fed up that courts are closing, not realising it's because of the policies of a Conservative government that members over there have been voting for all these years that have caused these problems. Right. Now, when you look at the things in front of us, we have, for example, the Lifetime Skills Guarantee. The Lifetime Skills Guarantee existed under a Labour government, and it's been in 2013. This government got rid of it, and now they want us to celebrate the fact that they're bringing back in less ambitious form exactly what existed previously under Labour. We've got the Apprenticeships Levy, that since the introduction of the Apprenticeships Levy, apprenticeship numbers have fallen. We have the Prime Minister, who 2 years ago stood on the steps of Downing Street and said, on social care, trust me, I've got a plan. And the reality is, he's now coming back saying, well, let's have a chat about it, because I'd like to work together on it. And the reality is, this government has said one thing and it's done another. They're talking now about a revolution in skills. We've had 11 years of funding cuts. The cuts to adult education are over 50%. They're absolutely monumental. And now the government has got the audacity to stand there and suggest that they are the way that we solve the skills crisis. And honourable members have spoken in this debate previously about the gap between Britain and some of our European competitors when it comes to productivity. Well, when you have the cuts that we've seen to work-based learning, when you have the cuts that we've seen to adult education, not just to the funding but to the numbers, when you have the impact that the introduction of the trebling of tuition fees had on work-based learning and had on people bettering themselves, then is it any wonder that we've got this productivity failure that we have in front of us? The Queen's speech talks about infrastructure. Now, HS2 is an important infrastructure project. It's one that was envisaged under the Labour government. Never before has there been a government spending as much money as they are on HS2, yet simultaneously looking so unenthusiastic and so incompetent in delivering it. I firmly believe in HS2. But I just wish we had a government that believed in it as much as I do, and they're the ones actually spending the money. The government has abandoned smaller businesses. You look at the Queen's speech, she's talking about increasing the amount of trade that we do with the Gulf and with Africa and Indo-Pacific. I entirely agree with that. But the reality is we've got a large market on our doorsteps, and the current arrangements that we have as a result of Brexit are preventing small manufacturers from being able to trade with those companies. And I have companies coming to see me in the UK, and they say if they haven't got enough for an entire lorry load to export, it's just impossible for them to export. And we had Sir David Frost just recently, the architect of the UK Northern Ireland Protocol, saying, well, the UK Northern Ireland Protocol is not sustainable for long. So this is a government that in every regard is telling us one thing, is failing to deliver, and then coming back and suggesting that they are the solution to the very problems that they have created. when it comes to small businesses have been left in a very difficult situation. We've seen them completely reducing the number of apprenticeships that small businesses are able to get involved in as a result of the complexity of the apprenticeship system. We've seen many small businesses really struggling through this pandemic because their directors were excluded from the self-employed scheme. And the self-employed scheme was great for those who qualified. But the reality is there were many people who carried on working right through the pandemic in many sectors, but were also able to pocket a very generous payout as a result of the government. And then there were 3 million people who, for a variety of different reasons, were excluded. So the government spent huge amounts of money on a scheme that missed many, many people for different reasons and simultaneously gave a huge amount of money to some people who actually were very gratefully able to receive it, but wouldn't necessarily be argued to be the right people. So we've got a government that doesn't mean what it says, that doesn't deliver what it says it will, and this Queen's speech is an incoherent example of all of the failings that they have.